If you write any kind of music, you already know that too much freedom can be deadly. Composers and songwriters need the constraining force of forms in order to create. Forms assure coherence and comprehensibility. Whether you're writing a pop song or a symphony, they provide a clear framework within which to create. But they can also become empty and full of cliches. In the works of the greatest composers, you're hardly aware that the forms are there at all because you're carried along by the force of the composer's ingenuity and creativity. Beethoven exemplifies this balance between structure and expression. Today, we're going to examine this contradiction in the final piece of the Neue Bagatellen, opus 119. Composed in 1820, this piece is a perfect example of Beethoven's late style. While accessible on the surface, it contains stark contrasts, emotional depth, novel textures, unity through motivic development, and a spacious introspection that invites the listener to find themselves within the music. Let's begin with a performance of the piece. A bagatelle is traditionally a short, light, informal piece. The score begins with the marking innocentemente e cantabile, innocently with a singing style. Clearly, Beethoven is going for simplicity and directness. The melody predominantly features conjunct intervals and has a limited range. The piece begins on the tonic, moves to the dominant with a double bar line. The next section starts on the dominant and moves to the tonic, concluding with a short coda. On paper, a classic binary form, but it's a lot more complicated than that. Let's examine the first 4 bars of the piece. We start with a simple melody and accompaniment texture. Beethoven uses only 1 and 5 chords, continuously varying the voicings and occasionally adding a dominant 7th chord. The phrase ends on a half cadence and is repeated. Reducing the melody to a skeleton, we find that it revolves around 3 main tones: D, E flat, and F. Bars 3 and 4 are a variant of the first 2. This 3-note cell is repeated throughout the composition. In the second phrase, Beethoven modulates to F, the dominant, using E natural as the pivot tone that signals this move. The rhythm and texture here are the same, and Beethoven creates a short sequence using the 3-note motif: C, B flat, A, F, G, A, and D, C, B flat. Bar 6 ends on a perfect cadence in F major, but Beethoven increases the harmonic tension by using a secondary dominant to move to G minor. Eventually, the phrase comes to a pause on a C-sharp diminished 7th chord, which is then resolved chromatically to a dominant 7th chord in F major. So throughout all of this, we've pivoted and pirouetted, but we've ended up right back where we started in this section in F major. Next, the texture abruptly changes with a 2-bar cadenza for the right hand, ascending up to a high register of the keyboard. At this point, the texture changes once more. The melody is perched up in the high register of the keyboard with short, punctuating chords in the tenor bass register and a huge gulf between the two. Rather than returning to the opening melody, instead we have another variant, using the 3-note cell, but in a different order: E flat, D, and F. Harmonically, this move from F back to B flat, the key of the piece, is subtle, buried as it is in the middle of the bar on a weak beat. Finally, Beethoven restates the melody with yet another new texture, imitative counterpoint in the right hand, ornamented with trills and 16th note runs. In this phrase, Beethoven changes the rhythmic profile of the melody. Notice how nothing is literally repeated. Everything is varied all the time. The coda is a 4-bar chorale, rounding off the piece with a perfect cadence played twice. So in barely over a minute, this piece runs through 4 different texture types: accompanied melody, cadenza, imitative counterpoint, and chorale. Despite its textural discontinuity, the piece is unified by its strong harmonic directionality and by its continuous variation of a simple motif. It disguises its binary form by downplaying major articulation points and playfully directing our attention with surprising shifts. Even in such a short and seemingly inconsequential piece, Beethoven subverts all of our expectations. And perhaps that is the definition of a great piece. Everything here is alive, vital, and transformed in surprising ways. If you like this video, be sure to hit the notification bell so that you won't miss the next one. And if you want to support the work that I'm doing, you can sign up on Patreon for as little as $3 a month. You'll find information in the link right here. See you next time.